Moving on to UFC Fight Night in London. That was an amazing card, top to bottom. But we're going to focus on those top three fights of the night from the main card. We're going to go in reverse order for this one. So let's start off with Volkan Oezdemir versus Dominic Reyes. What were some of your takeaways from this three-round decision that a lot of people had as a contentious decision that went the way of Reyes? A lot of people thought that Oezdemir took the W. And now he's on a what? Is that a 2 or 3 fight losing streak now ever since he fought for the title?
Yes, I believe so.
It's 3 fights. So what do you think? What do you think is going on here?
Yeah, I think it was a very close fight, like closer than most people would realize. And I think before they actually like raised Reyes' hand, I was thinking they would raise Ozdemir's hand. So I saw the fight going his way, like from my first just watching the fight, first time just watching the fight. And it's a rough go for Oezdemir because, like you said, three losses in a row. And just he was the new guy on the block that was so promising just about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and now he's back in line and losing. But yeah, I don't know, man. The way I saw it, Oezdemir seemed more aggressive. No.
Yeah, I honestly thought that Oezdemir put up a great fight. This was a split decision too. This wasn't some unanimous decision. This is what's heartbreaking for me is Oezdemir put up such a valiant effort. I mean, Chael Sonnen went onto his YouTube channel, amazing YouTube channel for all of those out there listening. Highly recommend checking him out. He's always entertaining and very insightful to say that that as well. So what he had said about this was Oezdemir fought the better fight, yet lost. He said it was just one of those where you lose even though you were the better man that night. That's just one man's opinion from Sonnen. But I think it also does paint a little bit of a picture of when you leave things in the hands of the judges, you've taken everything out of your control. The only thing you can control is what happens for those 15 minutes when you're in there.
Correct.
Once it goes to the scorecard, I don't care if it's a split decision one way or the other, you can't really complain.
No, not really.
Unless it's egregious. We've seen some bad ones in the past. This wasn't one of those.
It wasn't one of those. I think that even though we might have been left with the feeling that maybe Oezdemir won, I totally agree that it was a super close fight, and I'm not outraged. I'm not outraged.
One thing I have to say about Oezdemir's trek toward fighting Daniel Cormier for that title. Let's look at some of the names that he's beaten.
That's a good point.
And really kind of contextualize what he did to earn that title shot. And I'm not going to take anything away from it, but he did not exactly face the hardest competition. Let's take a look at some of these names. Since his first loss against one Kelly Anunson from a submission from a neck crank, Paco Estevez, okay, that wasn't even in the UFC.
Okay,
Alian Vahaev wasn't in the UFC. Comes back to the UFC, fights on the Bermudez versus Korean Zombie card on February 2017, and he fights OSP. He beats OSP via split decision.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Then he beats Misha Serkinov KO, big KO. Okay, that's a big one for him. 28 seconds into the first round. Follows that up with 42-second knockout of Jimmy Manua. That one at UFC 214.
And I think those are the two fights that really propelled him to.
That's where he got his nickname, No Time.
No Time.
Right. So you knock two guys out quickly. We've seen this before. We've seen guys go on streets where they're knocking guys out early and fast into fights, but then once they get tested and it starts getting into the heat of the battle, look at his decisions. Split decision win, split decision loss. What are we really talking about here, you know? Then, so after he faces Jimmy Manua, he loses against Daniel Cormier. DC is one of the best, champions of all time. We've seen that, so that's not taking anything away. Losing to Daniel, don't hang your head too low. But then he goes and loses to Anthony Smith via submission, rear naked choke. Then he goes and loses a split decision against Dominic Reyes. So he entered this fight ranked, I believe, number 6. And he faced number 8, and he lost.
Yeah.
I mean, your no time whole thing, you knocked two guys out that aren't household names.
Right.
Misha Serkinov, we're Canadian, and we're not sitting here talking about Misha Serkinov on a regular basis.
Right.
So, I mean, at the end of the day...
That's very true. Isn't he from Toronto even?
Yeah, he is. He's from Toronto.
God, yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's from our home city right now where we're operating out of. And we're not... This isn't... Like, there's guys that are from Canada that we celebrate.
Right.
Quickly. And this isn't one of those guys for a reason. I'm pretty sure Serkinov just lost his last. Oh, he won his last fight.
Didn't he lose to
He lost.
Johnny Walker?
He lost to Johnny Walker.
There you go.
So this is what we're talking about here. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here or anything, but I'm just saying he didn't face the stiffest competition on his way to that title fight, and we might have seen Volkan Oezdemir completely max out facing Daniel Cormier, and he got stomped by DC. Like DC owned him, threw him around, and that was his first fight where he was in a dog fight after 2 quick first round knockouts.
Right.
You're not doing that to DC. I'm sorry. Even John Jones had to wait.
Yeah.
So let's be real here. I hope Volkan can get back on the horse. I don't know what his next step is, but it's probably facing somebody outside the top 10. And Dominic Reyes is an up-and-comer. He's young, and I expect to see a lot coming from him, actually, in this
I think he's going to get his chance. That's what I think.
I don't want to see him run into it too quickly. Do not go and face John Jones when you're not ready yet.
Nah.
He needs to work his way up, maybe 2 more fights, at least 2 more fights. I'd like to see 3. Go ahead and get to that number 1 contendership and then face another guy again.
Oh, yeah.
Don't fight this guy too early. He needs to go maybe face what I want to see is this. Dominic Reyes go fight somebody else, then go fight Anthony Smith after he's done with Gustafsson, and whoever wins that fight at least. Yeah. Then you can go ahead and figure out if you can go beat Anthony Smith or a Gustafsson. That shows me that you might be ready to take a next step as Reyes.
Absolutely.
Don't fast track it like Oezdemir, and then now you're just plummeting, right?
Yeah.
Because psychologically that takes an effect.
Agreed, man. Agreed. He needs that experience still, and you don't get that many chances. Just make sure you pave your weight the right way. That's my take on it.
Next up, we have Leon Edwards facing off against Gunnar Nelson.
Yeah.
This was an amazing fight to me. Gunnar Nelson's one of the more exciting fighters out there.
I like the guy.
Icelandic, coming from a Nordic country like that. That's going to be great for the European exposure, a little bit more European flavor. And then Leon Edwards with Jamaican descent fighting out of Birmingham, England.
Right.
This is going to be a great kind of clash of cultures and everything like that. And Gunnar Nelson's known for his wrestling, his
BJJ.
bruising, ground, just come and choke you out, take you to the ground, and just boa constrictor style. Leon Edwards displayed some amazing wrestling. What were some of your takeaways from this fight?
Well, Gunnar Nelson's been actually like a popular name in the BJJ community for a while before he even started like doing mixed martial arts. So the guy's like really experiencing grappling. He's some people say that he might be one of the best grapplers in the UFC. I don't disagree. Although we saw what happened against Damian Maia. But Damian Maia is on another level.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree. He's a great grappler. And I was expecting him to win, honestly.
Yeah.
I thought he was actually physically more, had an advantage. He was bigger. And I thought he would be able to take Leon Edwards down and keep him down. That didn't really happen. I was surprised by Leon Edwards' performance. I think he's a great fighter. And I don't think Gunnar Nelson has had the best run as of late as well. Even though, he's changed his style. If you notice the way he strikes now, looks like Conor a lot. He like does that sideways kind of like karate stance.
Yes.
And jumps in and out and keeps his distance. I don't know if that applies to him that much. I don't know if that's something he should really stick to. He's not still, even after all that and being in camp with Conor, not the best of strikers. And I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a difficult one.
There's something to say about his, he's like you said, he's an accomplished grappler. If you look at some of his accomplishments in 2009, he was throughout the World Jiu-Jitsu Championship, the Pan American Championship for the IBJJF. He's coming in there. He won silver. He won gold. He won silver. So this guy is a world-class established grappler. He came in here out of all of his wins, he has 13 submission wins out of the I guess that's 17, quick math there. So 13 out of his 17 wins are all coming via submission, and he's never been submitted himself. He's been knocked out once. So this split decision against Leon Edwards, honestly, I thought that wasn't a split. I thought it was a clear cut.
Oh, me too.
Leon Edwards, that should have been unanimous.
That
was sketchy. That was a little bit sketchy. But that being, cause he finished on top. He finished on top in the 3rd round with the full mount.
Right.
So if that was a 5-round fight, I'd love to see where that was headed, personally.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I'm going to talk a little bit about Leon Edwards.
Go ahead.
This guy's coming out here and, he has 8 decisions, 6 knockouts, 3 submissions in all of his victories. He's never been finished. No knockouts, no submissions. So coming into this fight, despite Gunnar Nelson's credentials and expecting the win, I heard a lot of he's going to submit him, he's going to take him to the ground. It's going to be a world of a golf in class in terms of grappling.
That's what I
Leon
expected.
Edwards controlled the wrestling aspect of the grappling.
Absolutely.
And never let it get to the point of submission. He controlled all engagement when it came to clinching and grappling.
Yes.
So when you do that, and I think Gunnar Nelson was so incredibly surprised with his ability to defensively wrestle.
Yes.
I think that Gunnar couldn't really adapt on the fly. The coaching, you can ask John Kavanagh afterwards. I listened to what he had to say about that fight breakdown. I was listening to John Hardy talk about Dan Hardy. Talk about it a little bit. And I really noticed that a lot of people were counting out Leon Edwards' ability to wrestle, but like, where did it come from? We're not really sure where. We just assumed he'd get taken down, have his way taken with him. But Gunnar Nelson had a lot of trouble, like adapting on the fly. You can ask John Kavanagh about. He said we did not expect Leon Edwards to be able to wrestle that well, and we weren't able to adapt. And like that's the biggest thing. Is like sometimes guys bring a different level to the table than you really anticipated in the first place. And part of the beauty about fighting is being able to adapt and being that smart fighter who's coming out there and saying, no, I don't care what you bring to the table, I'm going to be better. If you have this air of arrogance about you, thinking, I'm the best, I'm going to beat you no matter what, there's nothing you can do to stop me at my game, eventually that will catch up to you.
And especially if you walk into the octagon and your game doesn't work right off the bat, you're like, okay, I didn't really plan out for this.
And he was a little bit lost, and he started to figure it out at the end of that 3rd round. And I would love to see what would have happened had that go in 5 rounds. But hey, the winner won, and that was Leon Edwards. Unanimous decision in my mind, but it was a split decision.
Yeah, I think it was a convincing victory.
The next one we had is Darren Till versus Jorge Masvidal. I'm hearing a lot of people say George.
I think that's acceptable to be called George as well. I think he
doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
I think he's honestly, I've seen more people refer to him as George than Jorge.
Yeah.
So I might just shift it over to George. So
Doesn't
let's
really
do it.
matter.
But yeah, he faced Darren Till, ranked number 3. He just came off of a loss against Tyron Woodley, who just lost his championship to Kamaru Usman. So that's a loss that Till was coming off of, and a lot of people, again, I want to harp on this a little bit.
Yes.
These guys that are ranked high, facing these guys that are ranked in the double digits or the low single digits, you're playing a dangerous game by taking on all comers. Dana White will praise you. Dana White will thank you. Dana White will love you. But if you lose, you lost.
Yeah.
And especially if you lose in a devastating fashion. All right, let's go look at Till versus Masvidal with a KO in the 2nd round, 255. What do you think about this?
Now,
fight?
first of all, I have to be honest and say that George Masvidal was ranked number 11 before this fight.
Yep.
Which for me is a bit of a shock. I have to say that looking at that, Darren Till was number 3, he was number 11, George was number 11, which already on paper seems like they're kind of like far apart when it comes to their ranking.
Well,
but
he hadn't fought in 2 years. George Masvidal,
he was injured,
fought.
eh?
He hadn't fought in 2 years. He lost to Stephen Thompson. November 4th, and the fight before that he lost to Damian Maia, split decision and a unanimous decision.
And then he was injured or something after that.
And then he took some time off, dealt with some of these injuries, and then now he's coming back and he looks revitalized. But yes, go ahead. I mean,
his previous losses to Damian Maia and Stephen Thompson weren't that bad or devastating. Once a split decision against Damian Maia, okay. I remember that fight. And then Stephen Thompson, you get one amazing grappler and one amazing striker, and you go to decision with both of them. I think that's still okay.
Yeah, to be ranked 11 is pretty. I think the inactivity, if anything, is the reason why people might pass him by, not the record itself. Because when you haven't fought for 2 years,
correct,
it leaves a mark. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but it made me this fight reminded me kind of what Masvidal is all about, like the whole history of him in MMA, just from the bare knuckle fights in the backyard fights that he was a part of, that I used to watch back in the day without even knowing who this guy really was. I didn't even know that he was an MMA fighter when I first watched those fights. Well, he wasn't at the time, but you know what I mean. And I love him, man. I love the just shows the experience that he has, the smarts that he has. He was patient. He looked like he was very defensive for most of the fight because he was kind of pushed against the cage for most part. I think Darren Till didn't pull the trigger as much as he could have. I think he was kind of stalking him and looking for that perfect shot and not really engaging in too many combinations. And Masvidal had the best strategy ever. He was pulling back, and waiting for that burst where he would like just tackle him and possibly catch him. I think it was the greatest strategy he could have.
Honestly, I think what happened too is Till is a guy who we're looking at in the welterweight division. Like, this guy needs to move up to middleweight.
That's
Jorge
one,
Masvidal is a guy that we're looking at. He's fighting in welterweight. It's like, yo, you could fight at lightweight.
Correct.
So I think he disrespected the power of Masvidal, especially after feeling some of those punches earlier in the fight.
Darren Till looked a lot bigger than him, for sure.
For sure. And the power that Till possessed, and I guess feeling a few of the punch. No one ever looks at Jorge as George Masvidal as a guy who has a one-hit knockout power.
No.
No one was looking at him like that. And I feel like Till, on top of the fact he was bigger, knew that as well.
Right.
And I feel like that played into him playing a little bit coy, disrespecting the power of Masvidal.
Absolutely.
You can hit me, I'm not going to get knocked out in one punch.
Do you remember the first round or so when
100%.
Till was just taking shots? He was just like, no problem.
Doesn't matter. Walking
clean
them
shots.
down.
He was like
them
taking.
down.
And I was like, okay, well, you're really brave and stuff, and maybe you can take some of those shots. But I mean, you're fighting someone really experienced, and eventually you're gonna get caught. One punch.
Part of it that didn't help, the cherry on top of the cake that became him being susceptible to this knockout by Jorge Masvidal, is he landed a huge punch first thing that Masvidal just didn't see it. He got a straight piston right down the pipe, dropped him, and that woke Masvidal up. That would shake a lot of guys up and be like, oh my God, I'm scared to engage.
Right.
That wakes a guy like Masvidal up.
That reminded me of the very start of the fight, which is probably one of the funniest starts to a fight, where Masvidal just ran and kicked him in the nuts.
Yeah, immediately he comes out and throws a kick, just glances him off the nut, and then they start fighting immediately, just punched in the face.
Yeah, that was the funniest start to
What's
a fight.
interesting is Masvidal got hit, and then when he got dropped, he was talking to Till.
Oh yeah,
he was talking to Till like, okay, let's see. He gets up, he's like, he in his mind, he's like, I'm gonna take this guy's head off. I'm gonna kill this guy.
Yeah,
and I think what happened too is that he set Till up so well with his striking, especially the striking to the body. I mean, and to the legs. See, what happened was Masvidal was, yes, he was peppering up top. That's fine. But if you look at like the significant strikes by target, Masvidal spread it throughout. 36 to the head, 20 to the body, 14 to the legs. So he was really battering and bruising the legs. See, what happened when Till got knocked out is this. Masvidal was constantly threatening grappling. He constantly kept threatening grapple. Beware of the takedown. He kept setting it up with level changes. He set it up with some kicks. Go and engage in some clinch work up against the cage. Okay, that's fine. You can get me off of me. You can get me off of you now, but can you do it later? So he was setting up all of that grappling and that clinch work up against the cage, and just in general wrestling. Now that wrestling is in the back of Till's mind, he looked like he was about to switch levels. And if you watch, Till posts his hands. He pushes down to get ready to brace for a takedown defense. Yeah. And he lifts his chin up. He lifts his chin up like that. And all Jorge did was he came around with the left and clocked him clean. He was not expecting an overhand left to come out of that. He switched levels. Look, he was ready to defend a takedown, and out of nowhere, pop on the button. So it's not power, it's technique. Oh, yeah. And he clipped him right on the button, and Till paid the price, man. This is what happens when you don't respect a guy's power and you're worried about getting taken down because your jiu-jitsu is not that great. So because you know you don't have great bottom game, and because you think that your chin's too good or this guy's too weak to knock you out, you left yourself exposed for the big strike, and which is what Masvidal did. And
Masvidal talked about it after the fight. There was a punch that he hasn't really thrown before, so that could have come as a surprise to Till, and also the wrestling factor, which I don't think was as effective actually imposing his wrestling in the first round, but
Agreed.
it definitely was the strategic move that led to the opening, which he caught him with. I just think also on the other side of things is that Darren Till has been so overhyped ever since he started, with all this expectation put on him.
It's almost not fair.
Because he opens up the market, right? He opens up the English market, and there's a lot of fans from there. And naturally, he's a good speaker, as most British fellas have that, I think Darren Till just, there's been so much pressure, so many fans expecting him to be this beast, the gorilla that comes in and knocks people out. And he does have pretty good striking, but that has been shown time and time again in the UFC. That's not enough when you see strikers come in, and when they have the threat of wrestling, they get even knocked out because they put their hands down, they expect the takedowns and open up. So, and another, just one last note about Darren Till would be that he cannot keep getting knocked out and finished for much longer. He's 26 or 27 years old, something like that right now. But and especially for someone that's so hyped up.
It was such a violent knockout, man. He didn't wake up for a while.
No, and not only that, after the first punch, did you see he got two more in? Masvidal got two more. One while he was still falling, and then once he fell down, he got him with another one.
It's dangerous, man. And we don't want to see people getting knocked out violently where they don't wake up for a minute. That's not what we want to see out here.
Over him against Gunnar or something.
Where you're just separated from your senses so egregiously that you're just not even able to wake up for a minute. It's kind of the reality of the sport. That was his first knockout loss, but you can't take another one of those.
Not really.
You can't. That is how you take years off of your. Forget about just your fighting career, your life.
For sure.
This not good. It's not a good investment to have that kind of brain trauma. And on top of it, Till is another tale of fast-tracked because Dana White sees that this guy is a huge draw. This guy is somebody who likes to talk. He's able to back it up. He's tough as nails. He wants to fight anybody. He doesn't care. He'll take on all comers. That's money, 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 money. But when you start fast-tracking guys and these guys don't know, when they should take a break, when they should come and take another fight, who they should fight, come in with the respect, come in with these different things. These losses like this are going to happen regardless of someone like Till is going to lose. It doesn't matter if it's Masvidal or if it's some guy who everyone thinks is going to beat him. But the key is him learning his lesson and being able to come back to the drawing board and not Cody Garbrandt this. Don't get knocked out and then just get knocked out.
You can't keep
and then
doing
just get knocked out.
Can't keep doing this.
So be smart. Round out your game so you can start respecting guys and know that you have confidence in every aspect of your game. This is mixed martial arts. This is not kickboxing.
It's going to be a rough few months to a year for Darren Till until he gets another win. But all I'm saying is that his last two losses are going to affect him, his mentality a lot.
100%.
For sure, because he lost a title challenge by...
Darce choke.
Very convincing.
And the Darce choke, the whole time on the grappling exchange when Tyron was on top, he had no idea what Tyron was trying to do.
I was watching that fight.
It was actually kind of pathetic.
And his defense was definitely not the best. He could have escaped there if he had more experience grappling. And so he lost that in pretty much devastating fashion because he was quick and he was very, very convincing against Woodley. And then after that, he gets knocked out in London the way he did. I don't know, man. And knowing how into fighting he is, how invested he is in fighting.
All he wants to do is fight.
Yeah, this is going to be a rough psychological time for him to overcome. And this is going to really show how he comes back. How he manages to deal with this is gonna be the deciding factor.
In life, there's no losses, only lessons, and we can only hope that Darren Till learns his, right?
Correct, man. Wish him all the best, though.